Visitors arrived early while staff unlocked service doors. In the carnivore building, the morning shift ran on procedure. Radios on, keys counted, locks checked, then feed prepared. Nadia Khan clipped her ID to her shirt, felt her key ring, and walked the concrete corridor behind the lion exhibit. Nadia had worked as a zookeeper for 7 years and followed protected contact rules without exception. She treated every latch as if it could fail because metal wore down and animals reacted faster than people could recover. Behind mesh and glass, the male lion watched her. His mane was thick, but uneven where scars broke the line. He had arrived 3 years earlier after authorities seized neglected animals from a roadside cage, underweight and stressed, with a healed fracture that still made him stiff on cold mornings. Routine had steadied him, but loud, sharp sound could still push him into fast movement. He was not tame. He was contained. Omar, her partner, rolled a stainless cart with buckets of meat. He stopped at the service gate that separated the staff corridor from a maintenance walkway and tested the lever. The gate clicked, but the sound was soft. Omar pulled again. The latch hesitated before dropping. "Gate 5 is catching," he said. Nadia stepped to the hinge side and checked the alignment. The strike plate was worn and the latch tongue was thin at the edge. The logbook note read, "Temporary fix pending parts." Nadia had written the last report after feeling the gate rebound under her palm. A supervisor had answered that risk was low because the main lion transfer door would be locked during feeding. Nadia understood the logic, but she also knew low risk was not zero. "Try it 3 times, she said. Omar worked the lever. Click, click. On the 3rd test, the latch settled late. He pushed the gate with his shoulder, then pulled it toward him to check for rebound. It held. He keyed his radio. "Gate 5 still sticky," he said. "Proceeding, but flag it." A supervisor answered at once. "Copy, keep it controlled. Maintenance is aware." Nadia did not argue over the radio. She changed what she could. She kept Omar behind her and took the longer route to the prep window so they would not need to pass Gate 5 again until the animal was secured. She checked the padlock on the main transfer door with her fingers. Locked. She checked the small access hatch beside it and verified the secondary pin was seated. Secure. She nodded to Omar to roll forward. At the viewing glass, Nadia used the lion's name as a cue. "Baru," she said. The lion's ears angled toward her voice. He stood and stepped forward, then paused with a brief hitch in his left hind leg before he corrected. Nadia noted it and kept her hands away from the glass. Their feeding protocol was strict. Baru stayed behind a guillotine door while feed was placed, and staff cleared the corridor before the door was raised remotely. Nadia checked the control panel, confirmed the door down indicator, and checked the door edge through the mesh slot. Seated. She signaled Omar to prepare the tongs. A sharp crash cut through the building. Metal struck metal, followed by a shout from the service yard outside. Omar jerked his head toward the corridor. Baru's frame tightened, shoulders rising and muscles hardening. His tail snapped once and held rigid. Nadia lifted her hand, palm down, ordering Omar to freeze. A second bang followed, heavier, like a cart tipping or a gate slamming. Baru pivoted toward the back corner of the holding pen, then turned back fast, head high, as if searching for an exit line. His breathing sped up, nostrils flaring. Nadia took her radio. "Loud noise at Lion House," she said. "Hold public access near carnivores. Confirm all gates secure." No reply came before a softer sound reached her, metal scraping, then a faint rattle behind her. Nadia looked down the staff corridor toward Gate 5. The gate was not fully closed. The latch tongue sat on the lip of the strike plate instead of inside it, leaving a narrow gap. Another vibration ran through the concrete and the gap widened. Omar started toward it. Nadia caught his sleeve and pulled him back. "Stay," she said. "Do not cross the line." She moved to the gate with her body turned sideways so she could retreat if it jumped. She drove it shut with her shoulder, forced the lever down, and listened. The click was still not clean. She held pressure, lifted the lever, and let it drop again. This time she heard the sharper snap she wanted. She twisted the manual lock and tested the gate with her palm. It held. Behind her, Baru hit the guillotine door. The metal rattled. Omar stood rigid with the tongs lowered, eyes fixed on the pen. Nadia returned to the control panel and confirmed the indicator again. The light stayed steady. Then she saw what changed everything. The small access hatch beside the main transfer door was no longer flush. It was open by a few centimeters, showing a thin line of daylight from the service passage beyond. The secondary pin that should have held it tight was missing. Nadia's mouth went dry. She had checked that pin minutes earlier. She stepped closer without putting her hands near the opening and saw the pin on the floor as if it had shaken loose. Another vibration ran through the concrete and the hatch creaked wider. Baru stopped ramming the guillotine door and went still, listening. Nadia keyed her radio again. "All staff to Lion House," she said. "Access hatches compromised. Security to Carnivore Row now." Outside, a visitor screamed, and the sound carried through the building. Nadia watched the hatch open another notch and understood that the morning's faulty hardware had created a live path toward people, and that Baru was already turning his head toward the gap. Nadia kept her body between Omar and the hatch. She did not touch the door again, because fingers near the gap would become a target if the lion surged. She moved to the control panel and dropped the guillotine door fully, using the backup switch even though the indicator already showed closed. The motor whined, and the door ceded with a hard thud. Baru paced once, then faced the hatch line, head lifted as if he could smell air moving. Omar spoke low. "What opened it?" "The pin is out," Nadia said. "We lock it down." She keyed her radio. "Omar and I are inside. Clear the public side now. Keep visitors moving away from carnivores." The supervisor's voice broke through. "Copy. Where's the animal?" "Still in holding," Nadia said. "Hatch to service passage is opening. I need maintenance and security at my door. Do not approach alone." Footsteps ran in the corridor outside, then stopped. Through the wall, Nadia heard the crowd shift from chatter to alarm as staff pushed people back. A gate clanged on the public side. She winced at the sound. Baru's ears snapped toward it and his tail went rigid. He was reacting to every sharp noise like it was a threat. Omar lifted the tongs, then set them down. His hands shook. "Should we dart him?" "Not yet," Nadia said. "A darted lion still moves. Drugs take time. If he reaches the passage, we lose control first and gain sleep later." The hatch creaked again. The gap widened enough for Nadia to see the service passage, a narrow concrete strip that led to a maintenance junction, then out to a fenced yard near the visitor walkway. If the lion reached that passage, he would also reach the secondary yard door. Nadia could not see that outer door from where she stood. She could only act as if it might fail. A new voice came over the radio, clipped. "Security on scene. Identify your position." "This is Nadia Khan in Carnivore Service Corridor," Nadia said. "Holding pen is secured. Hatch beside transfer door is open and widening. We need a physical block on the passage side. Do not fire unless I confirm the animal is out." A man answered, closer to the door now. "Understood. Walkway is clearing. Do you want lethal staged?" "Stage it," Nadia said. "Use it only if containment fails and people are in immediate danger." The latch on the hatch gave a small pop. The door swung wider as if pulled by its own weight. Baru took 2 fast steps toward it, then stopped at the pen barrier, staring. His chest rose and fell faster. He was not stalking. He was testing the line, measuring sound and air. Nadia lowered her hands, palms open. She did not wave or point. She used the posture from training, quiet, readable, not challenging. "Baru," she said, slow, "stay." The lion's eyes cut toward her for a fraction, then returned to the gap. The building felt smaller with every millimeter the hatch moved. The supervisor arrived at the outer door and called through it. "Nadia, talk to me." "Keep your voice down," Nadia called back. "What do you need?" "Bolt cutters and a wedge," Nadia said, "and maintenance with the correct pin. Also confirm the passage door to the yard is locked." A pause. "We're checking." The word was not enough. Nadia pictured the yard door with a worn latch like gate 5, like the pin on the floor. She pictured a contractor leaving it on a soft close. Another security officer spoke on radio. "I'm at the junction. Passage door to yard is shut. I'm placing a lock bar." "Good," Nadia said. Relief came in a thin line, not a wave, because the hatch still gaped and the lion still watched it. She crouched and slid the fallen pin away from the opening with the tip of a broom handle so it would not roll underfoot later. She could not reinsert it without putting her hand into the danger zone. Omar edged closer behind her. "If he pushes through, what do we do?" "We move to the solid corner and close the inner door," Nadia said. "We do not run. We do not split. You keep your eyes on him." Outside the door, someone slid a hard wedge under the hatch frame from the passage side, but it only slowed the swing. Nadia heard tools clatter, then a voice. "Pins bent." The supervisor asked if she could hold the hatch shut. Nadia refused. "No hands near the gap," she said. "Fix it from your side." A rifle bolt clicked in the hallway. A loudspeaker outside crackled to life, and a recorded evacuation message began. The first words came out distorted and metallic. Baru flinched hard, then charged the guillotine door again, slamming his weight into it. The steel shook. The indicator light flickered but held. Nadia lunged to the backup switch and held it down, forcing the motor to keep pressure. Omar grabbed the cart to keep it from rolling. The security officer at the door swore, audible over the radio. "He's reacting. Do you want the shot ready?" "Yes," Nadia said. "Ready, not taken." She heard her own breathing too fast and forced it slower because panic in her voice would spread. Baru stopped ramming and turned. He did not look at Nadia this time. He stared straight at the hatch, head angled, listening to the loudspeaker. Nadia saw him lift one forepaw and set it down with care, as if pain had returned. The old injury was flaring, and noise was driving him toward the only exit line he could sense. Nadia stepped closer to the pen, staying outside reach. She kept her hands low, voice steady, and eyes soft. The lion's ears flicked toward her again, but his body stayed coiled toward the hatch. Through the widening gap, a draft carried in the smell of people, and Baru drew it in. Nadia heard the scrape before she saw it. The hatch swung wider, the wedge skittered, and a dark shape slid across the passage floor. A security officer shouted from the junction, and the sound slapped back through the concrete. Baru surged toward the opening, not in a full run but in a hard trot that carried his weight unevenly over the left hind leg. Nadia stepped into his line of travel before he could commit to the passage. She did not stand in the doorway. She placed herself where his eyes would meet her first. Both hands stayed low, palms turned slightly inward, and she used the cue she reserved for calm checks. "Baru, here." Omar pressed his back to the wall behind her and went silent. The guillotine door to the main exhibit was down, but the hatch now offered a new route into the service corridor, and Baru had chosen it. At the threshold, the lion paused with his forepaws on the corridor side and his hindquarters still near the pen edge, testing the space with scent and sound. His eyes were wide, not narrowed. His ears flicked at every footstep outside. His tail held high and stiff. He was not settling, he was scanning for an exit line. In the hallway beyond the outer door, Nadia heard a rifle bolt shift. A security officer keyed in, voice tight. "Khan, he's out. Confirmed target." Nadia kept her gaze on the lion. "Hold," she said into her radio. "Do not fire." Baru took one more step, then hesitated. His left hind leg trembled as he set it down. Nadia had seen that tremor in cold weather and after sudden starts. The old injury was flaring under stress. Pain made him dangerous, but it also explained his movement. He was not stalking, he was trying to get away from the noise, and the passage smelled like open air. He turned his head toward her voice. Nadia shifted her stance sideways, giving him room to pass without forcing a standoff. She lowered her chin slightly and kept her shoulders loose. "Baru," she said. "Stop. Look." He held her gaze for a second. His mouth opened as he drew air over scent receptors, reading her. Nadia took one step forward at normal speed and stopped. She waited for him to decide. A child cried somewhere on the public side. A staff member shouted for people to keep moving. The building carried those sounds into the corridor in broken pieces, and each one made Baru's ears twitch. Nadia raised her right hand slowly, not above his eye line, and extended it toward the space beside his cheek where he could see it coming. She knew his strike range and the speed of a paw. She also knew what would happen if she retreated fast. Security would read the lion's forward movement as pursuit and fire. She used a single word: easy. Baru's ears flattened halfway, not in threat but in overload. He took one careful step toward her. Nadia did not back away. She held her position and let him close the distance under his own control. When his muzzle reached her hand, he stopped. Nadia kept her fingers together and pressed the side of her knuckles gently into the fur under his ear, the safest point she could reach without leaning in. The contact was brief and firm, like a check. Baru exhaled, a deep breath that shook through his ribs. His shoulders dropped. His tail lowered from rigid to level. Nadia removed her hand slowly and returned it to her side. "Good," she said. "Stay." Baru leaned his head slightly toward where her hand had been, asking for the familiar pressure again. Nadia gave one controlled touch along the cheek line. His eyes softened, his mouth closed. The pacing energy drained into stillness. Down the public hallway, a camera flash popped, bright and sharp. Baru's head snapped toward it. His body tightened and his forepaw lifted. Nadia moved before the tension could spike. She stepped half a pace to block the sight line and dropped her voice lower. "Baru, here." He hesitated, then returned his gaze to her. Nadia used that moment to angle her body toward the holding pen opening. She pointed low to the floor near the threshold, keeping his focus down. "Back," she said. Baru shifted weight and took a step backward. The injured leg dragged slightly. Nadia repeated the cue once, steady. "Back." He backed again until his shoulders aligned with the hatch frame. Omar finally spoke into his radio, quiet and controlled. "He's responding. Do not shoot. We're moving him back." The supervisor answered, brittle with strain. "Security is set. Keep him in sight." Nadia did not respond. She kept her eyes on the lion and her hands low. She pointed again. "Back." Baru backed one more step, then paused, listening. The evacuation loudspeaker had stopped. With less noise, he could think. Nadia used the comm to finish the move. "In," she said, and pointed to the pen. Baru turned and stepped fully into the holding pen, stiff but compliant. The instant his tail cleared the threshold, Nadia hit the switch and dropped the secondary barrier door between the hatch corridor and the pen. Steel slammed down. Baru flinched and spun, breathing hard, and Nadia felt the danger return because the sound was exactly the kind that had triggered him. She stayed where she was, hands low, voice steady. "Easy," she said, watching his shoulders rise and fall as he stared at the closed door. Outside the door, the security officer did not fire, but Nadia heard the rifle shift as if he had almost acted on reflex. "Animal secured." He called. Nadia answered without looking away. Contained but agitated, keep the corridor clear. In the passage, maintenance drove a temporary pin through the hatch bracket, then clamped a steel bar across the frame to stop any swing. The hammer strikes made Baru's ears flick, but the barrier held and he stayed inside, circling in short steps. A veterinarian arrived with a dart rifle and waited for Nadia's signal, knowing sedation would not fix broken hardware. Omar watched the control panel, ready to drop a second door if the first failed. Nadia saw phones at the glass and knew the video would travel faster than the incident report. And videos rarely carried context with them. In the outer hallway, someone spoke into an open mic, and Nadia heard the words that would shape what came next. "Management wants a statement. They're calling it a near attack." Nadia kept her eyes on Baru until his pacing slowed and the circles widened. The veterinarian, Dr. Farah Iqbal, waited behind the safety line with the dart rifle lowered, watching the lion's breathing and the stiffness in his left hind leg. Nadia keyed her radio and asked for silence on the public loudspeakers. When the building settled, Baru stopped at the far wall and stood with his head lowered, sides moving fast but evenly. Dr. Iqbal spoke through the mesh window. "He's in pain," she said. "That leg is guarding. If we dart, he may go down awkwardly." "We don't dart unless we must," Nadia said. "We stabilize first." The supervisor, Malik, entered the service corridor with 2 managers and a security sergeant. Malik held a tablet as if it could control the story. "Good work," he said, then looked past Nadia to the hatch. The steel bar and clamp were fresh and the bent pin lay on a towel like evidence. A manager spoke to Malik without lowering his voice. "Visitors saw her petted in the open. We need a clean line. Zookeeper calms lion after escape." Nadia turned to them. "It did not escape," she said. "A barrier failed. The hatch pin was loose and gate 5 is catching. The noise outside triggered him. If you call it an attack, you hide the cause." The security sergeant shifted. "We were seconds from shooting," he said. "Public thinks it was a charge." "It was forward movement toward the only exit he could smell," Nadia said. "He paused on cue. He leaned into contact. That is not a charge." Malik raised a hand. "Not here," he said. "Right now we keep the public calm." "The public won't stay calm if we lie," Nadia said. "They'll be angrier when the truth comes from video." Omar stepped beside her, still pale. "There are videos," he said. "People filmed the glass. They filmed the rifle." One manager frowned. "Then we get ahead of it," he said. "We call it a miracle and move on." Nadia looked at the pin and felt anger sharpen into focus. "A miracle is not a maintenance plan," she said. "We file a full incident report, and we close carnivores until every latch is corrected." Malik's jaw tightened. "Closing is not your call." "Risk is," Nadia said. "If the yard door had been unlocked, we would be explaining a dead lion as necessary. It would be necessary only because we ignored warnings." Dr. Iqbal stepped closer. "I can document an injury flare and a stress response," she said, "but I need quiet to examine him." Malik nodded once. "Stand down, lethal," he told the sergeant. "Keep the corridor sealed." He faced Nadia again. "Write your report, keep it factual." Nadia wanted facts on paper while the details were clean. She asked Omar to pull the logbook and the maintenance tickets for Gate 5 and the hatch bracket. He retrieved them and laid them open to the lines Nadia had signed. "Doctor." Iqbal chose a mild sedative protocol, not a full immobilization. Through a protected port, she delivered medication with a pole syringe. Baru flinched but did not lunge. Within minutes his breathing slowed and his stance shifted from coiled to weary. Dr. Iqbal examined the leg through the barrier, palpating the joint and watching his reactions. The joint was warm, and the lion guarded it when she pressed near the old fracture site. "He needs anti-inflammatory medication and reduced stress," Dr. Iqbal said, "and loud work in the yard must stop." A manager glanced at his phone. "Too late," he muttered. "The clip is online. Caption says, 'Lion escapes, Zookeeper stops attack by petting him.'" Nadia asked to see it. The video showed her stepping forward, hands low, the lion moving toward her and the rifle lifting behind the door window. It did not show the pin on the floor, the sticky gate, or the loudspeaker that spiked the lion's stress. The caption framed her as reckless and heroic at once. Malik exhaled. "We issue a statement," he said. "We say the animal was secured and no one was hurt." "People will fill gaps with fear," Nadia said. "If we don't explain the failure, they'll believe he wanted to kill someone. That will follow him." The security sergeant looked between them. "If she speaks publicly, she contradicts the statement," he said. "She prevents a worse story later," Nadia said. "We can't train animals on trust and then betray it for convenience." Malik stared at the logbook, at the dates, and repeated notes. "We notify the wildlife department," he said finally. "We close carnivores for inspection. I will not call it an attack." A manager started to protest, then stopped. The corridor still smelled of adrenaline, and no one wanted to imagine the rifle discharging in a crowded zoo. Malik asked Nadia to walk him through the exact seconds at the hatch. She described the first soft click, the pin on the floor, the loudspeaker crackle, and the moment she heard the rifle bolt. The security sergeant admitted he had a sight picture and was waiting for a clear instruction. Omar confirmed the guillotine indicators never changed. Malik wrote the timeline into his notes and told the managers they would hand over maintenance logs if investigators asked. He ordered retraining on latch checks starting tomorrow morning immediately. By late afternoon, visitors were gone, and the building was quiet except for tools. Maintenance replaced the hatch bracket, installed a locking pin with a retaining chain, and aligned Gate 5 with a new strike plate. Nadia walked each latch with the technician and made him test it until the click was sharp every time. She wrote each repair into the log and took photos for the file. Before she left, Nadia returned to the mesh window. Baru lay on his side, eyes half open, breathing slow. His mane looked rougher in stillness, more like a wild animal and less like an exhibit. Nadia did not touch the mesh. She spoke once low. "You're safe," she said. Her phone buzzed with a message. A reporter wanted comment and social media had named her a hero. Nadia saved it without replying. She knew the next morning would bring interviews, blame, and pressure to simplify. She also knew the simplest story was the most dangerous because it erased the chain of choices that had almost ended in a shot. She left with her report in her bag, and the repaired latch clicked behind her, a sound that promised nothing until it was tested again.